Stephen Colbert walks onto the stage with his usual charm, waving to the cheering crowd as the band plays. The energy is high, the lights bright, and the camera is locked onto him. With a wide grin, he announces tonight's guest, building her up with the usual blend of satire and excitement. Joining us tonight, he says with a deliberate pause, is Trump's youngest former press secretary and current Republican firestarter, Karoline Leavitt. The applause is a mix of polite interest and political curiosity. As she walks onto the set in a sharp blue blazer and confident stride, the camera zooms in on her face, composed, professional, but clearly bracing for a challenging exchange. Colbert stands and shakes her hand with a smile that says welcome but also signals he's ready to spar. Karoline returns the smile, but it's thinner, more calculated. She takes her seat across from him, adjusting her microphone as Colbert settles in with a sip of water. The pleasantries begin as expected. "Karoline, it's great to have you here," he says. "A lot of people have strong opinions about you. Some love you, some, well, they watch this show." The audience chuckles. Karoline responds smoothly, "Well, Stephen, it's always good to be where people aren't afraid of a little disagreement." A bit of tension crackles beneath the banter. Colbert nods slowly, acknowledging her sharpness. "Fair enough," he replies. "Let's disagree, politely, of course." She nods back, eyes locked on him like a chess player planning her opening move. The first question comes easy, about her rise to national attention, her rapid ascent in the GOP, and her role as a youthful voice in conservative politics. She answers with practiced precision, hitting her talking points about media bias, free speech, and the importance of fighting for American values. The audience listens intently, some applauding, others sitting stiff. Colbert leans back, studying her. He begins steering the conversation toward her recent controversial remarks about election integrity. Karoline's posture shifts slightly, shoulders stiffening just a bit, but her voice remains steady. Colbert's tone remains playful, but his words get sharper. "You said last week that the mainstream media is at war with the American people. Would you include this show in that category?" She laughs briefly, but it's a little too sharp. "Well, Stephen," she begins, "this show might be exhibit A in how entertainment and misinformation blend together." The room tenses. The audience is suddenly quiet. Colbert raises his eyebrows and flashes his trademark smirk, ready to counter. "Oh, so we're the enemy now?" he asks. Karoline smiles back, unfazed. "I didn't say you were the enemy. I said you're an example." The chess match has begun. And though they both smile for the cameras, the tension is now unmistakably thick, and everyone watching knows something unpredictable is about to unfold. Colbert maintains his composed smile as the audience chuckles nervously, sensing the shift in tone. He leans slightly forward in his chair, hands folded, his signature note cards resting loosely in one hand. With a quick glance at the camera, he transitions to a more serious line of questioning. "Now, Karoline," he says casually, "you've spoken at length about how you believe the media is twisting narratives, especially around the 2020 election and January 6th. But if we're going to talk about twisted narratives, let's put some facts on the table." With a flick of his wrist, a large screen behind them comes to life, flashing headlines, some from conservative outlets, others from mainstream sources, juxtaposed against each other with bold animations and dramatic background music. Karoline turns slightly to glance at the screen, her expression steady, but her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. Colbert continues, "You've said that January 6th was blown out of proportion by the media, but look at this footage, real-time images from Capitol Hill that day. How do you reconcile your comments with this?" The screen now shows chaotic scenes from the Capitol riot, peppered with shouting, broken glass, and lawmakers rushing for safety. The audience falls silent. The tension isn't just between Colbert and Karoline anymore, it's stretching across the entire studio. Karoline crosses one leg over the other, leaning into the microphone. "Stephen, let me be clear. No one is defending the violence that happened that day. But what I am saying is that the media has selectively used those images to paint every conservative as a threat. That's not journalism, that's propaganda." Her tone is sharp but measured, practiced. A few members of the audience clap hesitantly, but others remain silent. Colbert nods, tapping his cards against his desk rhythmically. "You say it's propaganda, but these are facts, not interpretations. People were injured, lives were threatened, democracy was literally under siege." Karoline's smile returns, tight and professional. And yet, how many people have been held accountable for actual planning? For real insurrection, the majority of protesters were peaceful. That's the part that never makes it onto your screen, Stephen. The back and forth becomes noticeably more pointed. Colbert, known for his satirical jabs, keeps his voice calm but sharp. So you're saying it's the media's fault for showing people what happened? Should we have just cut to a cooking segment? Laughter erupts, but Karoline doesn't flinch. She leans forward, her tone now more forceful. I'm saying that your show, and others like it, thrive on outrage. You keep America divided because unity doesn't get ratings. That line hits hard. Colbert pauses, visibly taken aback. He recovers with a smirk, but the studio can feel the undercurrent. The air is thick with discomfort, fascination, and adrenaline. This isn't a typical late-night comedy segment anymore. It's morphing into something raw, unscripted, and unpredictable. Colbert gently adjusts his tie, keeping his cool despite the rising heat of the moment. He tilts his head, eyes locked on Karoline as she finishes her statement. The audience is now leaning in, holding its collective breath, sensing the turning point. So, Colbert begins slowly, you're accusing us, this show, of dividing America for ratings. His voice still carries humor, but it's no longer a joke. Karoline doesn't backpedal. That's exactly what I'm saying. Every time someone with a conservative viewpoint sits in this chair, you mock them. You edit their message. You paint them as dangerous or delusional. The tension is unmistakable now. A low murmur ripples through the audience. Colbert responds with a tight laugh. Karoline, this is live. There's nothing to edit. You're speaking freely, and people are watching. She leans forward. Yes, they are, and I want them to see how dismissive you are of anyone who doesn't toe the liberal narrative. Her voice rises a notch, no longer polished and rehearsed. She's emotionally invested now, challenging the very foundation of Colbert's platform. Colbert narrows his eyes slightly. We challenge ideas here, Karoline. That's what this desk is for. If you feel attacked, maybe it's because your ideas don't hold up under scrutiny. The audience breaks into applause, some even cheering. Karoline's jaw tightens, but she doesn't blink. You mean scrutiny from comedians and late-night laugh tracks? That's your idea of journalism. She shoots back. Colbert's smile fades, his tone turning icy. No, that's my idea of accountability. There's a sudden stillness. A heavy pause. Then Karoline pushes back in her chair, microphone catching every breath. You don't want a conversation, Stephen. You want a spectacle, and if I'm the villain tonight, that's exactly how you'll spin it. Her words echo across the studio. She glances at the audience, some now looking visibly uncomfortable, others hanging on to every word. Colbert picks up a mug of water, takes a slow sip, and then sets it down with precision. You're doing a fine job of spinning yourself, Karoline. The confrontation has reached its boiling point. No one in the studio is laughing anymore. The crew behind the cameras shifts nervously. One stage manager whispers into a headset. This was supposed to be a 10-minute segment. It has become something else entirely. Something real, volatile, and far beyond entertainment. Karoline stares across the desk, unmoving. This country needs real conversations, Stephen. Not late-night monologues disguised as interviews. The tension now is visceral, vibrating in the air. Something is about to give. Backstage, the crew is in full alert mode. The floor manager is no longer just observing. He's quietly signaling to production assistants, giving subtle cues that the segment may need to be wrapped early. In the control room, producers glance between camera angles, whispering into headsets, their eyes darting between Colbert and Leavitt. The temperature on stage is rising, not just emotionally but physically. Everyone can feel the pressure mounting. On stage, Karoline's voice is sharper now, her tone defiant. You call this accountability, she says, pointing at Colbert, but you never hold your own side to the same standard. Colbert leans back in his chair, his fingers tented in front of his face. He's clearly deciding whether to double down or pivot. But Karoline doesn't give him the chance. She raises her voice, not shouting, but loud enough to silence the remaining murmurs in the audience. You platform jokes while America bleeds. And when someone from the other side dares speak up, you all laugh and clap like a well-trained choir. That line cuts deep. The audience is stunned. Some viewers squirm, some fold their arms. A few brave souls even clap, but it's drowned by the heavy silence that follows. Colbert, known for never losing his grip, stares at her quietly for a second longer than usual. Then, with a half-smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes, he responds. "You're not here for dialogue, Karoline. You're here for a headline. And I think you just got one." As the words hang in the air, Karoline stands. Not in a rush, but with absolute certainty. She brushes down her blazer, reaches to adjust the mic clip to her lapel, and steps to the edge of the stage. Security, already on standby near the curtain, quietly approaches. A producer appears just behind the curtain, motioning for her to step back into the wings. Colbert remains seated, but his eyes follow her every move. "We're still live," he says under his breath, more to himself than to her. She turns toward him one last time. "Good. Let them see this. Let them see what happens when someone refuses to play your script." The audience doesn't know whether to clap or wait. It's the kind of moment that breaks format, that defies the polish of late-night TV. One of the security staff gently gestures toward the backstage area, but Karoline doesn't need to be pushed. She walks off the stage, heels clicking on the studio floor, not looking back. A hushed, confused energy remains in the room as the band doesn't play. No commercial bumper, just silence, and the eerie buzz of something truly unscripted. The studio lights dim suddenly, not as part of a planned segment, but as a quick, improvised move by the tech team. Colbert remains seated at his desk, slightly stunned, fingers drumming on the surface as he looks toward the wings where Karoline just exited. The camera holds on him for a beat longer than usual, capturing the uncertainty on his face. The audience doesn't know whether the show is continuing or ending. Some people murmur quietly, a few look toward the stage exits, expecting someone to announce what's happening. Then, just as abruptly, the feed cuts to a hastily prepared commercial break, something generic, not even part of the scheduled ads. Backstage, Karoline is surrounded by staff trying to stay calm, asking if she's all right, encouraging her to move toward the exit hallway. She's not crying or panicking. She's steady, almost eerily composed. She refuses help, removes her mic herself, and hands it back to a stunned production assistant without saying a word. Security follows her a few steps behind, making sure she reaches the back corridor, but it's clear she's leaving under her own power. Angry, yes, but entirely intentional in her walkout. A few crew members exchange wide-eyed looks. This wasn't just a tense interview, it was an unscheduled political earthquake on live TV. Moments later, the show resumes, but it's no longer the same. Colbert reappears on camera, sitting alone at the desk, no guest beside him, the interview table empty. "Well," he says, trying to reclaim some control, "that was interesting." The audience offers a light laugh, but it's thin and uncertain. He continues, "We had a spirited conversation with Karoline Leavitt, and it seems she felt it was time to exit early. That's showbiz, folks." He forces a smile, but even he knows that moment will be replayed endlessly online within the hour. And it is. Social media explodes. Within minutes, clips from the interview, especially the walk-off, begin circulating across every platform. Some conservative voices frame it as Leavitt, standing her ground, against a hostile liberal host. Progressive outlets call it a meltdown, an overreaction to being asked basic questions. The hashtag Leavitt vs Colbert starts trending within 30 minutes. Memes emerge. Analysis videos begin dropping before the night is over. The show's YouTube channel disables comments on the clip. News anchors on rival networks are already planning how they'll spin it for tomorrow's segments. Karoline, meanwhile, issues a statement before dawn. It's polished and defiant, praising herself for refusing to be silenced by the leftist entertainment machine. Colbert doesn't reply directly, but opens the next night's show with a sarcastic monologue titled, "Flight of the Right." The media frenzy continues for days. The walk-off becomes a talking point in political circles, from cable news to late-night monologues to campaign trail speeches. What was supposed to be a tense but controlled interview became a cultural flashpoint, one that no one saw coming, but no one can ignore.